hat and mittens, you will need a 5mm crochet hook, a tapestry needle, a pair of scissors. And this is such a small project, so I'm just using some leftover yarn I have. This is Lion Brand Heartland yarn. It's a weight 4 worsted weight 100% acrylic yarn. This is the color Rocky Mountains, but you can use whatever worsted weight yarn you have laying around from maybe a previous project. So let's get started. I'm going to start out by creating a magic circle or magic loop. If you don't know how to do this technique, I have a helpful tutorial linked below. You're then going to chain 3. And I'm just going to chain 2 because I tend to crochet pretty tightly, so 2 stitches is sufficient to reach the height for my double crochet stitches, which you're then going to double crochet 11 more times into the center of this magic circle. That will create a total of 12 double crochet stitches, since that initial chain 2 or chain 3 counts as a stitch. Once you've worked all 11 of those double crochet stitches, pull tightly to close that magic circle. And then we're going to slip stitch into the top of that initial chain 2 or chain 3. We're now going to chain 3. And then we're going to front post double crochet twice in each stitch around. This one, our first chain counts as a stitch, so we're just going to work 1 front post double crochet around that first stitch, which is that initial chain 2 or chain 3 from the previous round. So yarn over, insert your hook around the post of that stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops on your hook, and then yarn over and pull through the final 2 loops on your hook. So that's our first 2 stitches right there. The next stitch, we're going to work 2 front post double crochets around that stitch as well. And a final stitch right around that same post. And working around the posts of the double crochet stitches like this creates a nice kind of knit look fabric that I think is really beautiful. So I'll show you one more time. Yarn over and go through the post of the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the final 2 loops, and repeat that one more time around the same post. So you're just going to repeat this pattern around, working 2 front post double crochet stitches around the post of each stitch. You'll have a total of 24 stitches after this round. So I've completed round 2, and I'm just going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 2 or chain 3, and then chain 3 or 2. So for this round, we're going to front post double crochet 2 times in one stitch, front post double crochet 1 time in the next stitch, and repeat that around. So I'm going to begin by front post double crocheting around that first stitch, which is our chain 2 or chain 3. And that completes those 2 stitches in that one right there. So in the next stitch, you're just going to front post double crochet a single time. And in the next stitch, we're going to front post double crochet 2 times. And repeat that stitch pattern around. And this is just the basic stitch pattern for a circle, in which each subsequent round you're increasing your number of stitches between the increases by 1. So I've completed round 3. We're going to slip stitch into the top of that initial chain 2 or chain 3, and then we're going to chain 3 or 2. And now we're just going to work front post double crochets in each stitch around. You should have 36 stitches total at this point. So because we made our initial chains right there, that first stitch counts as a stitch. We will work right into the next stitch, front post double crochet. And just continue that pattern around, front post double crochet in each stitch. So then you're going to slip stitch into the top of that turning chain, or the chain 2 or chain 3 from the previous round, and you just continue working the next few rows like this, just front post double crochet in each stitch around. So I have completed round 11. I'm going to slip stitch into the top of these turning chains and then chain 2 or 3. And I'm going to front post double crochet into this first stitch. Then I'm going to double crochet just regularly into this next stitch. So we're just working through the top of the stitch into both loops of the stitch as normal. And then in the next stitch, front post double crochet, and in the next stitch, double crochet. And what this is going to do is going to create some texture variation along the edge of the hat that kind of makes it look finished and complete. So continue this pattern all the way around, front post double crochet and then double crochet. I've reached my last stitch of round 12 and that's going to be front post double crochet. Then we're going to slip stitch into the top of those turning chains, chain 3 or 2, and we're going to repeat that round one more time. So front post double crochet into that first stitch, and then double crochet into the next stitch. And repeat that around one more time. Your stitches should be lining up from the previous row so that it creates these little ridges along the brim of the beanie. Alright, front post double crochet in that final stitch of the round and slip stitch into the top of the turning chains. And for the final round of this beanie, we're just going to slip stitch in each stitch around. Slip stitches are hard to differentiate from where they begin, so I like to mark that first stitch of the round with a stitch marker. And just continue slip stitching in each stitch around. This is an easy way that I like to finish off crochet beanies that are made with double crochet stitches because it just kind of brings in the brim of the hat and prevents it from slipping off because sometimes those double crochet stitches can be a little bit loose. So just work this pattern all the way around. So I have slip stitched in each stitch of that round and I'm going to fasten off using an invisible join. I'm just going to show you that because it's kind of a different technique that not everyone has seen. So you're going to snip your yarn and then pull it right through that stitch. Grab a tapestry needle. And in that first stitch of the round, we're just going to go through both loops of that stitch and pull. Take out that stitch marker. And then where your yarn is coming from, this stitch right here, we're going to go through the back loop only of that stitch. If you can see that, back loop only, and pull. And what that does is it creates kind of a false stitch right there and it makes the edge of our beanie look totally seamless. So now you can weave your ends in. I like to tie just a tiny knot to keep that invisible stitch in place, invisible join in place. And then remember how you weave ends in is you want to go about an inch in one direction, and I'm just picking up random plies of the yarn, pull through, and then you're going to go back the direction you came from, working through any pieces of the yarn you can pick up, and then you're going to go back the opposite direction a third time. And that should keep that yarn end in place. So just fasten off. And that completes the beanie. So the mittens that go along with this beanie are worked pretty much the exact same way as the beanie with just fewer rows. So I'm going to begin by creating that magic loop or magic circle. Chain 3 or 2. And work 11 double crochets into the center of that magic circle. Work that final double crochet into the magic circle and once again pull to close, then slip stitch into the top of that initial chain 2 or 3. From here we're going to chain 2 or 3 and front post double crochet 2 times in each stitch around, just like we did with the beanie. Round 2 of the mittens is going to be just a little bit different than the beanie. We're going to chain 2 or 3, and then we're going to front post double crochet 2 times into that first stitch. And then we're going to front post double crochet a single time into the next stitch. And we're going to repeat this around. Front post double crochet 2 times into the next stitch. And front post double crochet a single time into the next stitch. So at the end of round 2, we're going to slip stitch into the top of that initial chain 2 or 3. Then you're going to chain 2 or 3 again, and now we're just going to front post double crochet in each stitch around, and we'll do this for the next several rounds. So for the next round of the mittens, we're going to chain 2 or 3, front post double crochet in the first stitch, and then double crochet in the next stitch. So we're working kind of just a finishing edge in the same way that we did with the beanie. Work this all the way around, double crochet, and front post double crochet. Work that final front post double crochet, slip stitch into the top of these turning chains, and then again we're just going to slip stitch in each stitch around. Mark that first slip stitch of the round so you don't lose it, and continue working around. And then we're going to fasten this off using an invisible join in the same way that we did the beanie. So once you're done with this, just create the other mitten, and that is it. I hope you enjoyed watching.